Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you to Women's in African Power Increasing Connections series, webinar series. My name is Ana Rojas, and I'm very glad to have you participating and joining in. I want to thank you, the audience, and also our panelists for being on board on today's webinar. I also want to thank thank Power Africa, which is a U.S. government-led partnership coordinated by USAID, for their constant support to WiAP and to its Increasing Connections webinar series. We have a brilliant lineup of speakers today, both amazing professionals with an amazing career. And before we listen to them and how they cope with the pressures of working in the energy sector, I want to run you through a few virtual housekeeping matters. First, if you've tuned in now, you will see that you've been muted. And this is to keep disturbances away during the webinar. However, it is not meant to keep you silent. Quite the opposite. We would like to encourage you to send in your questions and comments throughout the webinar. This would make it even more lively, and it would help us make sure that you can benefit the most from the experience of our panelists. You can do this by using the chat function in your control box, which is the box that you can see towards the right top side of your screen. And my colleague Jamie Nguyen will be supporting us with both collecting your questions and comments, but also with technical difficulties that you may encounter. She has also made available a handout that you can see in your chat box. And this handout contains information about the topic of today, which is resilience, how it's defined, and some elements that you can already start practicing about if you want to become even more resilient than you are. And the question that we get the most is always whether or not this webinar will be made available afterwards, and the answer is yes. It will take us some time, so bear with us, but we will make the recording and the website with the resources available and the presentations, of course, as soon as we can. With that, I would like to go slightly into a brief introduction of our network, which, as you know, convenes and connects established and emerging female leaders who are working in the African energy sector. We have now more than 900 members in more than 20 African countries, and the members represent a different backgrounds and diversity, including those working in national utilities, working on finance. We have lawyers among us, engineers, of course, and also women who are studying STEM careers so that they can later on join the energy sector. If you are tuning in and you're not already a member of the Women in Africa Network, please reach out to Ms. Mortimer, whose email you can see on the slide. And also do follow us on our different social media platforms to keep in touch and be updated on the things that we are doing in the network. Increasing Connections webinar series aims at sharing knowledge and building professional skills on women active in the African energy sector. And today we're going to be focusing mainly on resilience and how to plow through difficult times in the energy sector. We will be doing this together with Charity Wanjiku, who's the co-founder of Strauss Energy Limited, and Bertha Dlamini, who's the president of African Women in Energy Power. I'll invite them to first introduce themselves and their careers, and we will have a little interview set up where they're going to be sharing their experiences through a series of questions. Afterwards, we're going to open the floor for questions and answers from the audience. So we again encourage you to please join us on that matter. And if we're thinking about resilience, well, we need to understand that it is that ability to manage stress and to keep positively through difficult times. Resilience is something you can be born with. It's a characteristic of your personality, but it's also something that can be learned. And studies showed that there are at least 7 different elements that can be easily taught. And if you're interested to learn more about this, you can request a career session, a coaching career session with a professional career coach that we would make available for about 12 of our network members. If you want to look for more information about how to become resilient, do look into the handout that you have received from my colleague, Jamie Wen. And sorry, that went a little bit too fast. And without further ado, then I would like to invite our first speaker for today, Miss Charity Wandiku. So Charity, please let us know whenever you're ready so we can listen to your introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Anna, for your lovely introduction. Am I clear to everybody? Am I being heard on your side?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. We'll go ahead. So my name is Charity Wanjiko. You can see from the screen. And just a brief about myself, I have a whole write-up on it. But just a bit about me, I am the 4th born of 4 children. I like to introduce myself as that. I'm not call myself a last born. I have 2 elder sisters and a brother who also happens to be my business partner. And I consider myself an entrepreneur with a keen interest in renewable energy and in the construction spaces. This is based on my background, my training experience, which is in architecture as well. So I am co-founder of Strauss Energy Limited, which is an award-winning energy enterprise that seeks to alleviate energy poverty in Kenya and Africa at large with our innovative 2-in-1 roofing tile that integrates solar cells into regular building material. And our first product of this has been a roofing tile, which has received several awards. I'm also a Tech Women Fellow, so if there are any fellows and I'm also an alumni of Babson College Center for Women Entrepreneurs. So that's pretty much about my training and my experiences. In addition to that, I also like to say that I recently became a teacher. So I teach at the Department of Construction Management at my former university. I'm an alum of Jomo Kenyatta University, and I'm teaching there on part-time basis. I'm currently teaching management information systems because I'm interested in tech, and I guess I'm known as well for being in tech. I'm a certified M&E and quality assurance consultant with the TVET authority in Kenya, which is the Teaching and Vocational Education teaching and vocational education training in Kenya. So my role is essentially to just look at the quality of content that's being shared with the students and whether it's in line with what the government has stipulated in their act for TVET. And because of my background in construction, I have also construction and being in the innovative space in renewable energy. I've been co-opted into a steering committee with the National Construction Authority in Kenya on appropriate or innovative building materials and technologies. This is in line, it's a committee that has been set up in line with the government's agenda. It's called the Big Four agenda, and one of the 4 elements that the government is looking to put together before the end of the term in 2022 is affordable housing. So this steering committee is steering that agenda of appropriate building materials and technology, and I'm part of it, happy to be part of it. Something else about me is, I mean, all that sounds very professional and career oriented, but there's a bit of me also that I like to share with others and say, I'm not shy to a challenge, and the outdoors are my, I like to call the outdoors my little thing. That the outdoors are one of the things that help me get my balance in life. So I do enjoy hiking, I do enjoy running marathons, I do enjoy the outdoors. So anybody out there who wants to go and hike, you're welcome to join me. One of my missions for next year, the year 2020, is to climb 4 major mountains in Africa: Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, Elgon, and Ruwenzori. So any takers, I'm available for a challenge. And I also mentor young women and young women entrepreneurs in STEM careers around my city and around my country. Just to mention a few of the awards and honors and causes I'm involved in. Last year was a big one for me. I was mentioned, listed in the Forbes as one among 50 top women in tech globally. Now that was huge. Previous year, I became a Tech Women Fellow and also recognized by Women in STEM as an exemplary leader in a management position in San Francisco. In the same year, the World Economic Forum recognized me as a female tech entrepreneur. And I was also nominated as East Africa Businesswoman of the Year by All Africa Business Leaders Award. Well, that was a nomination, but I thought it was important to mention it. And in 2016, locally, I was recognized as one among 40 top, one among 40 most influential women in Kenya, under the top 40 under 40 women by Business Daily. And also, while at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, GES, at the Stanford University in Silicon Valley in 2016, I was selected as the People's Choice winner for the pitch I gave for my company, Strauss Energy, which was really good. Again, I say I'm a mentor with two organizations locally, Akili Dada and Precious Sisters. For high school, gap year is girls who just finished high school and going on to college. So there's a gap year in there. They're wondering what to do, part of that. And peer mentoring with Precious Sisters, this is for girls in high school, taking them through the 4 years of high school as mentors. So lastly, just a pictorial of what balances my life, who I am. If you don't remember anything else I've said about myself, this slide shows my 3 stones, the things that ground me and the things that keep me together. So the 3 key things are God, my family, and the outdoors. So if you see at the top is me when I was 2, that's on my 2nd birthday. The other picture is my family, my parents and my siblings. And below, you find Bible study and on a hike to Longonot. So those are the 3 things that keep me grounded. The other things on the side actually just fill in the gaps. So that's the work I do, and that's how I balance my life. And I guess a lot of resilience comes from just putting all this together on a platform that helps me to stay afloat with everything else that goes on. And that's the end of my introduction.
Thank you, Charity, for both introducing yourself as the professional that you are and also as the person that you are. Warmth and balancing family, work, and trying to keep time for you. And I would like to now invite Bertha Domini to also introduce herself to you.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. It is quite a pleasure and a privilege to be on this webinar and to speak on such a profound topic, resilience. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I will go straight into my introduction. I'm the founder of the African Women in Energy and Power, which is a profound initiative aimed at supporting women entrepreneurs in the energy and power sector in 22 targeted countries in Southern Africa and East Africa. Alongside that initiative, we have Gen X Theatre Africa, which is a youth in energy initiative that provides platforms for youngsters in energy to present abstracts of their academic papers at international conferences as a way to giving them exposure to the energy and power sector. My career started back in 1998 as a qualified marketing communications specialist, and I held several roles in the advertising industry in the public sector, looking at various creative marketing communication strategies for different companies. My passion has grown since then to supporting women participation in the energy sector. The reason is we know that half of the population of the continent does not have access to power. And I believe that when we accelerate women and youth participation in the sector, we will be able to accelerate electrification and therefore access to energy and therefore quality life for everyone in the continent. So it's part of playing my role in lighting up the continent. I have experience as an entrepreneur with interest in the energy sector, transport and telecommunications, delivering performance solutions and systems for utilities. I have spoken at a number of conferences. I'm a moderator of different panels looking at modernization of the energy sector in Africa and the impact of the fourth industrial revolution. Stakeholder management is one of my core strengths, and it's what I leverage to build networks and to create a mutually beneficial platform for my customers and their target audiences. I have spoken about founding African Women in Energy and Power and Gen X. Those are the two programs and non-profit companies that I run, supported by a team of advisory board members to accelerate youth participation in the energy sector. I've also been a strategic advisor to the Association of Municipal Electrical Utilities in South Africa, looking at gender mainstreaming in the utility sector, especially in the electricity sector. So when we look at where I have been and how I got to this passion that I have, I mentioned that I started in 1997 in marketing communications. In 2006, I founded a consulting firm called Rito Consulting Services, which provided integrated marketing communication solutions for both public sector and private sector companies. Through what we have in South Africa, a transformative policy called the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, I sold my company to a larger energy consulting firm called Eon Consulting, and that's how I made my transition from a creative world into a technical space, especially growing my interest and my passion for energy solutions for the continent. During my stay at E.ON, I became their managing director, responsible for business development, market development in Southern Africa, and especially ensuring that we delivered value to our diverse range of customers. During my stay at E.ON in 2014, that's when I founded the youth program, Gen X Theatre Africa. We started providing or creating a theatre for youngsters to present the abstracts of their academic papers. I sit on the advisory board of Power Gen Africa, an international conference that takes place annually in Africa, and the African Utility Week, and the Power and Electricity World Show. My participation as an advisory board member enables me to create opportunities for women and youth to participate in the energy sector, to gain exposure into technology, services and products which they can either on-sell, or they can manufacture, or they can develop for their local markets. As founder of and president of African Women in Energy and Power, my commitment is to support 500 women entrepreneurs by 2023. That is touching 100 women entrepreneurs in partnership with the African Leadership University, and building their capacity and capability to service the energy and power space on our continent as we advance electrification. I have a number of nominations and industry recognitions for the work that I have done in the energy sector, and also as a managing consultant for the public and private sector in South Africa. My greatest highlight, of course, was in 2016 being a finalist for the African Utility Week Women of the Year Power and Energy, Power and Water Sector, and this was a continental award. It really inspired me to pursue my programs to avail opportunities for other women in the sector. I was also quite excited to be a finalist for the Business and Professional Services Award by the CEO magazine for Africa's Most Influential Women in Business and Government Awards in 2014. And last year, I was nominated by the World CSR Day and World Sustainable Congress for Africa's Women Leaders Award. And these are some of the recognitions that propel my my inspiration and my passion to work in the energy sector. And that is, in summary, who I am and what I do in the industry.
Thank you, Bertha. It's been amazing listening to, to your experience also, and now I'm very glad to be able to come into the interview section, because looking at your careers and knowing that both of you took out a lot of achievements and awards to make them fit on this slides. I just want to start by asking you, and Bertha, I think I have you online, so I'll start with you first. What does resilience mean to you, and how has it played a role in you managing so much in relatively such little time?
So resilience is a very complicated competence for individuals to have. And I'm going to start by describing that for every journey that you take, you must already embrace that suffering is part of the journey. Whether you are a mother, a professional, a wife, an entrepreneur, a specialist, an academic, whatever your goal is, the journey to achieving your goal has a certain extent of suffering, which is where resilience comes into play. Resilience is life's test for your elasticity, your ability to transform as you pursue your goals. So it's important that you have a very clear mind about your goals, what you want to achieve. And if you are struggling to articulate your goals in writing or in your heart or in your mind, consult a few trusted people that can help you shape your path and what you want to achieve. So that as you are tested in your journey, you know what you are suffering for, and therefore you can persevere. Now, perseverance and resilience are sisters. It is continuing in a course of action, even in the face of difficulty or with little or no indication of success, but a conviction and a faith to persist and to pursue your goals. Now, what is very difficult about learning to be resilient is that resilience and life's challenges, they test your mental strength. Your mental strength being the ability to process your thoughts and to find logic or sense. Your ability to be comfortable with your thinking process and to understand how your thoughts work. Your emotional strength, which is your ability to process your emotions, dissect them, understand them. The feelings of frustration, anger, irritation, annoyance, fear, or doubt, perhaps even self-pity. It is your ability to have a healthy conversation with yourself, with your inner voice. Then it also has to do with your physical strength, your ability to withstand pressure. So do you fall sick when you're under pressure? Or are you looking after yourself, after your health enough that when you face difficulties, you are able to stand firm, pursuing your goal, persisting? Resilience is staying through the fire of suffering for the sake of your goals and not giving up. Your mind must be focused on the goal must be very clear, and it must be inspirational. So this is how I can describe resilience.
Okay, it's a lot to deal with, but it was lovely to listen how, in spite of the suffering, when your objective is clear, you can prepare for it. And the metaphor you use about the elasticity and also on how to deal with life, I think it's resonating with a lot of us. Charity, I want to ask you the same question in the sense of, what does resilience means to you, and can you perhaps further elaborate or compare how you stand in life, listening to what Bertha was also sharing with us?
All right. Wow, resilience. I like to describe resilience as, just as we saw on the first slide that you showed, just the ability to manage stress, really, and more so the ability to keep going, especially in tough times. So the best way to describe resilience for me is climbing a mountain. And because I'm a hiker, it comes out very clearly every time I go hiking. Because it's tough. Hiking is tough, but there's a goal that I'm trying to achieve. When I leave my house in the morning and I want to come back in the evening and I've gone hiking, I want to come back with the satisfaction that I went, I saw, I conquered. Knowing fair still that that mountain is hard to climb. I'm going to get tired. I'm going to be overly exhausted. I'll probably curse myself at why I left my warm bed to go climb a mountain in cold climate. Probably get rained on. But what is it that I want to achieve? What's the backstory to that? So for me, that describes what resilience is: going, seeing, and conquering, and coming back with the satisfaction that I may be so exhausted, I may have run out of breath at some point in time. I made it. I made it through, and I came through stronger, knowing that Next time I go, I'll probably go through the same things, the same emotions, but I will make it through. And this comes in very clearly, especially, I mean, what I'll use hiking a lot as an example as we go along because it's taught me a lot of resilience. Sometimes you climb up a hill and it's very steep, and I wonder, am I really going to make it through? And when I get up to the top of the hill, I look back and I'm like, oh, look at that, I actually made it through. And there's another one right ahead of me, and I wonder, will I make it through this one? And I remind myself, I made it through the last one, which didn't seem possible. So this can be done as well. So resilience to me is that effort, that power to keep going even through a tough time. And tough times can be anywhere. Can be at work, can be at home, can be climbing mountains, can be in the littlest of things, starting your car in the morning and it refuses to start. How do you deal with that? How do you manage that? So for me, I have learned to just, know that I can do it, know that I can go the step, I can push the limit and make it through and go to the other side of the bridge. So that's what resilience means. It's bouncing back, not necessarily to the original position. It could be the original position by a better person.
Thank you. We're having some kind of background noise, Charity, but we can still hear you. So don't get discouraged. Perhaps you can get a little closer to the computer. I wanted to follow up with you as I have you now online and ask you. There are two things that came very strongly from the two of you, and one was to keep this objective, to know where you're going, so that it helps your resilience. And it's very interesting the visuals that you give, in terms of climbing the mountain. But if you're someone like me who lives in a country without mountains, the practicality of that may be a little bit difficult. So I was wondering if you could further explore with us how you stay resilient during those challenging times. What are some practical things that you do when those moments of stress and challenges hit you on a day-to-day basis?
Right. Is that better? Is my sound better?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I had muted myself. Yes.
Sorry, my sound is better. Good. I have my earphones on now. So how do I deal with some of these challenges? So for me, what I do is, apart from climbing mountains, so let me just use the day-to-day things that I do. I breathe, just like I did. I breathe. That's the first thing. I take a step back and evaluate my situation. So if I'm making an example for maybe at work, one of the examples I can give perhaps would help better understand how I deal with this is I receive a phone call. This is good stress, not too bad stress, but good stress. So I receive a phone call, and who's on the other side of the line? It's the ambassador of the Netherlands, who's called me directly on my phone. And my first reaction is, okay, stand up. You're speaking to the president. How do I deal with that? I'm being invited to speak at an event that he has. But why would the ambassador himself call me? That's a point of stress for me. But how do I deal with it? So I remember, just to give an example for that, how I dealt with that. First, I evaluated what he wanted me to do, speak in a panel, and I thought, am I good enough to do that? Why would the ambassador call me to speak in a panel? So I sat back and evaluated who I am and why he would consider calling me. Let's say I still wrote down, I prepared as well I prepared for the speech, I prepared for the panel, and I asked questions around. I did my research on the topic that was given, and I was ready. And once I stepped on the X, which I like to say on stage, it was all good and dandy, which is, of course, what I expected. However, the process of getting there is where the lesson on resilience came in, that I had to step back, I had to breathe, I had to prepare, I had to practice, I had to do my research, and I had to calm down so as to prepare well. So there's several examples I can give. At work, what do I do when I'm under pressure? I step back. I actually just sit back and breathe first. I have learned that breathing is a wonderful exercise to just help you get your balance back. Because for me, I probably don't work very well or make very great decisions while under pressure. So once I step back and take a breather or take a walk, then that helps me to understand that this is what needs to be done, this is where I need to go, and this is how I need to do it. So I don't know if that gives an answer to some of the things that how I deal with day to day. I could give several examples. I could give a lot of examples. Moving house, which I just did about 6 days ago. I had to move house, and my mom was well. So there's a lot. Just how do you balance? I try to find a balance around myself. Step back, breathe. And when I say step back, I literally mean stepping back and taking a step, a literal step back, and possibly even sitting down on the couch just to breathe and then get your balance. That's how I deal with some of these situations.
Thank you. So take time for yourself, breathe in, bring things into perspective. Bertha, I would really like to also hear from you how you deal, or what are your tricks, if I may call them like that, to stay resilient when challenging times come knocking on your door.
So over the years, I have learned to love myself and to be patient with myself. That for me was a very profound lesson in life that helped me to anchor myself and to be confident and therefore to be able to face challenges. I also learned not to judge myself so harshly. To understand that I'm both a shining star and a work in progress, that there's always room to learn. So I should not be afraid of making errors or mistakes, but I should be more curious to learn from every experience. You know, there's a saying that I coined that says, excellence is a journey with loops and turns, not a destination. I also disciplined myself not to compare myself with others and create unnecessary anxiety that shifts my balance. So part of that self-introspection was learning what truly makes me happy, what kind of music do I like, and have it handy and available. What kind of activities do I like? I love dancing salsa. And who are my best people that I know when I'm under pressure, they will be able to give me the right support. And so when I can't change a situation and I know I have to go through it, I find something pleasant to focus on until I have figured out how I can resolve the matter. Now, finding something to focus on does not mean that I betray my commitments. It does not mean that I neglect my performance. It does not mean that I neglect my responsibility or I become less accountable. I remain committed at all times while ensuring that I feed my soul. I feed my soul with positive experiences. I almost become like my own cheerleader. And I have learned the phrases that I must tell myself to boost my ego, to boost my confidence, to make myself feel good. And if that fails, because not everything that we we set aside to use when you're under pressure works at the time when your adrenaline is high, your anxiety levels are high. I always keep a network of very good friends or good close relationships with the family where I don't necessarily need to disclose the detail of what I'm going through, but I know that the connection we have relieves a lot of the pressure that I have. And that is how I have managed to cope with very difficult circumstances. And that is how I have been able to jack up my resilience. One other thing that I would like to mention is sometimes we frustrate ourselves by focusing on the grand, big goals. I also try to look at small wins. If I have a couple of small wins in a week, it helps uplift my spirit during a difficult time.
Thank you. That's an interesting tip. I mean, to keep the eyes also on the small wins to boost your spirits. I wonder if you would mind sharing with us perhaps a particular moment in which you needed to be resilient, in which you had a challenge. I mean, Charity had just mentioned about this way of management with positive stress and her experience with the ambassador inviting her as a panelist. I wonder if you could also reflect on a challenging situation, perhaps something that's a little bit more on the negative side of things, and how you deal with that, and what can you learn from trying to be resilient in such a situation?
Sure. So one other thing that is maybe important to note or to mention is that resilience is not always about activities. Sometimes it's just being still. And using breathing exercises to calm yourself and taking the time out to process your thinking. One of my most difficult and most profound experiences was when I had to retrench 50% of the company, and we were going through a restructuring, right-sizing process with people who had been with the company for more than 10 years. So they were the company. And I had, as the managing director, I had to make a decision on the jobs that I could save and the jobs that I could not save. And it was my responsibility to look people in the eye, people I had worked with for 6 years in the eye, and tell them that I was not able to save their jobs. And there were a lot of people depending on my ability to manage that process seamlessly as possible, that I had no margin of error. And so what I used to do during that time is I used to sit silently and remind myself of the things we had done to save as many jobs as possible, and remind myself that I cannot do anything beyond what we have been able to do financially and humanly. And I consoled myself that I was doing the best thing possible. And I hope that those that I had let gone when the dust had settled would see the logic, would see the strategic thinking, and would find it in their hearts to forgive me. And as I went through these thoughts, I gained strength daily to go and face the next consultative process, to go and take on the next difficult questions, to go and take on the next beating as a leader, and to come back knowing that every step is in line with a strategy that would save the company and would in future create more jobs. So resilient, how was I resilient during those times? I ensured that I ate a proper breakfast, I ate a good lunch, I ate early enough before late in the evening, I ensured that where I could fit in a little bit of exercise, I did that. When I couldn't, I did a lot of stretches, physical stretches, because tension, affects your shoulders and your back. So I did a bit of stretching. And when I got an hour in between, I watched a comedy just to balance things out, to feed my soul. And for years after that experience, this was in 2016, I think only in 2018, around about May 2018, could I lift my head completely with my chest abreast, to say I did the right thing. I did well by those who kept their jobs, and those who left, we did well to support them to find new work. And those that we couldn't find new work, they transformed themselves and found new journeys. So resilience is also during the challenge and post the challenge, being patient with yourself, being patient with your healing process, and knowing that you never come out of a difficult situation unscathed. And you must learn how to face those wounds, how to confront them, how to have conversations with yourself and with others that have faced similar challenges. What I have learned during the process is you must be more curious and you must be more willing to learn from others as much as you're learning from your own experiences.
Thank you, Bertha. It's been extremely interesting to listen to you, especially, it's a situation that involves not only you, but other people whose lives are changing. So it's interesting to see how you put things into perspective to keep on going and to reassure yourself that, you were doing what you could, and that was the best of the situation. Charity, I know you've also had your set of challenges professionally, and was wondering if you would be also willing to share with us one of those particularly tough moments and what that you did to be able to keep on going. And while I say that, I want to remind our audience to send in also their questions, because time is running up and we'll like to also hear from you here. Charity?
All right. So, just picking up from Martha's discussion on how she had to fire some of her employees and people she worked with. So, probably I would start my example from when I would take up the role of the ones who are fired, because I was fired once. Before I came in fact, it was my stepping stone into Strauss Energy. So the company I was working for was not doing very well, and they were laying off staff members, and they were using, the criteria was senior management or last in, first out, and whichever the case, I was in both. I was among the last to be employed, and I was in senior management, so either way I was going. I didn't have very long notice, and that came to me as a shock. And but looking back, with hindsight, this is almost 5 years back. This was a stepping stone to me coming into Strauss Energy as an employer now. So for me, this whole situation of being fired and getting into business now, and now being an employer and no longer an employee, I have to change my thinking. That's one of the good examples I like to give about resilience in my life, because it came at a time that I completely was not expecting it. I didn't see it coming, but it happened. And so what now? What do we do? So I'm in Strauss Energy now full time, and we are a startup, and I have no idea how to run a business. I've never run a business before. We have this amazing idea, and we're receiving calls left, right, and center, and I had to use Beth's words, jerk up my resilience and my confidence of being on this other side of my career, no longer as an employee, but as an employer and as an innovator, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, running a startup company. So that was difficult at first. That did make me pull a few of my hairs grayed as well. But that did not stop me from running the business. So what I learned from that and what I've taken from that whole experience is now that it became a turning point for me to understand that being an employer is completely different from being an employee. I have to, because I understand both sides of the coin now, what kind of environment do I want to create for my employees, for my staff members? Are they colleagues or are they just employees? How do I relate with them? So I remember just thinking, you know what, this is new for me. And because I have been an employee and now I'm an employer, I'll probably get the best employer award. Well, I hope I will one day. To create an environment that is better than what I have experienced before. So I came out with, I borrowed and I took the good from my experiences as an employee to put those in my organization as an employer. So what do I mean? I thought being able for my colleagues, I call them my colleagues to be able to reach out to me at any point in time, never to feel like, oh gosh, I can't talk to her, she's the boss. No, as much as that, but then again, as much as I want that freedom to be there, for them to also recognize this is business and work must be done. So one of the takeaways I know I have carried with me from that experience is being a lot more empathetic with my staff members, with my colleagues, so that I can understand where they're coming from in the event of, there's a miscommunication or some output that is not as what I was hoping it would be. Just to understand what is the problem, where are we coming from, where are we going, but we must realize even if we're not able to do this now, how else can we do this? Can we reason together? So that's one of the things that I can say I've learned. The other thing I know, another lesson I've learned is to learn to listen to connect, learning to listen to connect and understand and not to respond. So that has taught me to be calm, to take a breather and listen to understand and to connect with the person, and not to respond, not to start already formulating responses in my head while they're speaking. So these are some of the experiences that and outcomes of my experience being fired from being an employee into being an employer. And now just using them every day and improving on them. I like what Martha has said about being a work in progress, a shining star, but also a work in progress. And that's what I look at my current situation now as well. And also just training to learn better. I keep telling my colleagues, train to learn better and not necessarily to solve all problems. Just learn, keep learning, not necessarily to solve a problem, but just know that one day you'll have to use that information somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you. And on that note, I am conscious about the time, but because we started 5 minutes later, I hope everyone's going to stick for an extra 5 more minutes today. Charity, I just wanted to ask you this one question that came in. And Bertha, I'm going to ask you afterwards, is that how do you speak about resilience, or how do you help your colleagues build this resilience without sounding weak in the energy sector, which is such a tough, at least in expectations, sector. How do you experience that?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, the energy sector, the energy sector is a tough sector. It's male dominated. I'm a woman in tech, I'm a woman in STEM. But what I have learned as well is to maintain my feminine side, to be firm, but still maintain my feminine side. I keep saying I'm a woman. I will never be a man. I will never be a man. I'm a woman. So whatever I say is judged as a woman. But I must be firm. It's about being firm, not rude, firm yet gentle. The gentleness is where the feminine aspect of it comes in. But you have to be, I must be firm in what I say. As I said earlier, I am very empathetic with my colleagues, but I also make them understand that this is work. So if you're unable to do something or you're having difficulty, learn to ask questions, find out that there's somebody else who can assist, find out if there's more information about it. You're not a fool for asking a question. So I always have to remind myself ask questions. Remember, we're all human, but work still has to be done. So I'm always, I have this, I use the analogy of flossing teeth, which is a very strange analogy, but it works. As a woman, you must learn to be very firm yet very gentle, just like flossing teeth. While you're flossing your teeth, you must be firm to get those little crevices in between the teeth. But you have to be gentle as well so you don't hurt yourself. So that's what I tell my colleagues as well, and that's what they see in me. I'm approachable, but I'm firm. I will smile, I will give them instruction, and still smile at them.
Okay, thanks. It's indeed an analogy I had never heard before, but one that it's very vivid and easy to remember. Thanks. I hope I don't forget. And Bertha, do you want to reflect on this last question that we received in terms of how do you experience the whole issue of being resilient or trying to help others being resilient and not be misrepresented in the sector?
Sure. The energy sector is a very difficult sector. It's a very fast-paced sector as well. It's totally male-dominated, but it's a very highly technical sector as well. So it demands both the intellectual strength and the personal stealth to survive in the energy sector. Having said that, I caution for women in energy not to try and change themselves to become like their male counterparts. They must retain their femininity while learning as fast as possible the competencies that are required to navigate the networks of people that exist in the energy sector, to participate very boldly to change policies so that policies are gender sensitive, both for procurement, for supplier development, and for designating budgets for women, not only in the periphery of the supply chain or the value chain, but in core technical areas. Now, let's get to the more softer elements of the strength. When I say softer element, it does not mean it's weak. Actually, it's the softer elements of your character and your persona that drives your strength as a career person or as an entrepreneur. I say to people, learn to learn from others. Do not be ashamed to ask questions. Always believe that other people have experienced different things from yours. That does not invalidate your experience. Have the curiosity to learn from other people. Ask inquiring questions without being overbearing. Show people that you're really interested to learn. Believe in your intellect. Believe in your unique gifts. Believe in your network and its loyalty. Remain relevant within your network, relevant in content, relevant in rich intellectual engagements, and ensure that you understand the value that you play or the value that you have within that network. For those that are working within OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, global firms, EPCs, construction firms in the energy sector, 10 key firms in the energy sector, and those that are working within utilities, understand your role. When you are appointed, your role was designed before you as the unique person arrived. So understand the role and how it connects within the ecosystem of your division, your department, or your team. Build relationships with each connecting point. Build relationships with more than one leader. Do not be shy to talk about your achievements and their impact in the ecosystem. Produce empirical evidence of your performance. Build a narrative about your role, your value, your unique contribution, and the impact it has in the team, in the department, in the division, and in the entire organization. Have interest to understand how the organization works, how it works, what is required for performance, and that understanding will propel your interest to research further about your craft, your expertise, so that you're always abreast of the trends, so that the company can see the value in you through the results that you produce. That's why in the beginning of my talk, I spoke about having clarity in your goal. What is it that you want to achieve in the next year? Break it down to small, chewable chunks, celebrate your small wins, build your network, ensure that you are also of value in the network. And this is what I share with either colleagues and with people that I mentor or coach. This is the foundation of your resilience. Being relevant and being conscious of where you are and having a clear understanding of your ecosystem.
Thank you, Bertha. We're coming to the close, but I don't want to do that without giving each of you the opportunity to sum, let's say in 1 or 2 sentences, the tip that you would give our audience to keep being resilient. Bertha, perhaps you can go first, as you're online already.
Yes, I would like to first thank you. Thank you so much for the discussion. I've learned a lot from Charity. I am quite impressed with her achievements, and I hope to connect with her beyond our talk. Very quickly in the beginning, I said you are a shining star and a work in progress. Always remember that. Even in difficult circumstances, do not forget who you are. Do not forget your unique contributions. Do not forget what a special person you are and how much the industry needs you. You are a work in progress, and continue doing the fantastic work that you are doing. Continue learning. Be hungry to learn.
Thank you. And Charity, if I could ask from you your 1, maximum 2 tips for the audience so that they can stay resilient through tough times.
Okay, thanks, Vanna. Well, let's see, call it that. So one of the tips I would give is make time for what matters. The things that matter to you, make time for them. That will help you get your balance. That will help you be and build, that will help you build your resilience as well. Make time for what matters and gladly, generously. Secondly, learn to say no. No is an answer to any questions that's asked. It can be a yes or a no, and it's okay to say no. And lastly, as a leader, I have learned to guide on the side and not as a sage on stage. So it's something I would like the ladies listening as well to take up. I'm still a work in progress on that, but I'm learning to guide on the side, not as a sage on stage. That's it. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for letting me meet Bertha as well.
Well, I think I can honestly say on behalf of the team here that it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have the two of you here. We normally have very good panels, but this has been beyond inspirational. And I hope everyone listening in now and to the recording later on will feel just as inspired and looking forward to making time for ourselves, breathing in, and even looking for comedies so that we can lighten up our lives when things get tough. And it's been an amazing conversation. We are coming to a close, and I just want to remind everyone that resilience is something that you keep on building. It doesn't matter how resilient you are, you're feeling today, you can be that even more tomorrow. And on that note, I would like to remind you that we do have the opportunity to support our network members through coaching sessions with a professional career coach. And the deadline for asking for this opportunity, for applying for it, is Thursday, the 13th of June. Jamie has been sharing the link with you through the box if you were wondering what it is. Do follow us, connect with us for the career development sessions. And I don't want to say goodbye without thanking again our marvelous panelists, thanking you, our audience, and thanking also Power Africa for the support and making this series possible. I want to remind you that the video will be made available together with the presentations once technically it's all up and running, and you'll receive an email from us when that is available to you. We will continue with this webinar session, so keep your eyes open for the next edition, which is going to be about planning for succession, how we build other people's strengths so that they can move in their career. It's been a pleasure to be with you today, and very much looking forward to our next webinar with you. Thank you for listening in, and have a great day. Bye.